Hi everybody, it's AJ again, and today I want to go more in depth and make sure everybody is square or good on for loops. So for loops are a way to iteratively go through a process and do a lot of work in computing, because one of the biggest beneficial things about programming is it allows you to do something that would be very tedious to do as a human. So that's why we write programs, right? And also to have a lot of fun, like on Facebook. So let's start out writing a for loop. So let's write probably the most basic of for loops. So let's write a for loop that goes from 0 to 10. So for int I equals 0. Oh, I guess I should explain everything. So the keyword for the for loop is for. And then in our for loop, we're gonna have parentheses following it, and we're also gonna have braces underneath it. And then our for loop is going to take three conditions. The for loop takes three basic conditions. It takes a variable declaration. It can be anything. It could be an integer. It could be a double. It could be a char or a string. But you most commonly see a integer I or an int, and usually it's called I. And usually you see it assigned to 0, but again, I could assign it to 22 or 24 or negative 24, whatever. Just trying to illustrate. So I'm going to assign it equal to 1. And then the next thing I need a semicolon, and I need a Boolean statement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I is less than 10. And then, so that's my Boolean statement. So I'm saying for int I, while I is less than 10, go through this loop. And now I want to say my incremental condition. So I want to say every time I go through this loop, what do I want to do? Because obviously, if I don't increase y, if I just leave I as 1, then I will always be less than 10. So I need to change I in some way to make sure that the condition is not always true. Because if that condition is always true, I'll have an infinite loop and my program will never terminate, which is definitely something you don't want. So what you usually see is you see that I will be incremented. This is actually pretty common in most programming. So my first condition is my declaration. My second condition is my Boolean statement. I is less than 10. And then my increment operation is what happens after every run of the for loop. What do I mean by run? I mean every time that, if you imagine the for loop, that it gets down to this brace. It gets down to the closing brace of the for loop. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to print out I. And I'll put an indel just so it's easy to read. So now you see that. And basically, remember what I said at the beginning? Well, we're going to make a loop from 1 to 10. I want you guys to think about it. Will this loop print out 1 to 10? I want you to pause the video and make sure you're square with me. And make sure, think about what values this printout will print out, and then move ahead. But I'm going to run it right now, so pause if you don't want to know the answer. And this is what it prints out. So it prints out 1 through 9. So it didn't print. So I said 1 through 10, but it printed out 1 through 9. And the reason because it printed out 1 through 9 is, well, let's think about it. So I start out with the variable equal to 1, and then I say I is less than 10. Is that true? Yes, it is. I is less than 10. And then I go through this loop, and so I print out I, which is 1, and then I get to this brace. So then I go back to the for loop. I go back to the top, and what do? I increment I, or I increment it when I get here. It doesn't really matter, but you increment I. So now I is equal to 2. Is 2 less than 10? Yes, it is. So then I go to 3. I go to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I get to 9. So when I go through 9, I is equal to 9. 9 is less than 10, that's true. So then I print out 9, and then I go here. I increment 9, or I, to 10. Is I less than 10? 10 is not less than 10. 10 is less than or equal to 10. So that is the one condition I was missing to print out 1 through 10. So you want to be very careful on how many times your loop runs. Obviously, a lot of errors in computers are affected by what's called off by 1. An off by 1 error. Oh God, why did that go away? Okay, so as you can see now, I have the values 1 through 10 printed out in a column, which is pretty cool. So now I want to just show you guys some more advances on for loops. So let's say, for instance, that I want to show you guys that you commonly see a Boolean statement here. You commonly see a statement here that checks that if something is less than something. But I just want to say that when I say Boolean statement, you can really have anything. So let's say I have a bool check is equal to true. And I want to check that I is less than 10 and check is equal to true. I can either say and check, and so it's saying and check is true, or I can check that, or I can just be a little bit more exact and say and check is equal to true. Sometimes I put that there, but really pro programmers would just put and check. So will this make sure you know, will this program run, will this program not run? If you're not sure, think about it and pause the video. And here we go, I'm going to run it. And as you can see, the program did run because check is true. And just to show you guys what I mean, if I get rid of the equals to true and I just say check, so I'm saying while I is less than or equal to 10 and check is true, well, I'm not changing check, so that's okay. Then I can do this. Then I can, again, check it, and it will only do that, and it will print out again 1 through 10. But something I can also do, so another way, so this check here, this Boolean is saying and check is true, basically, if I just put it there. But what if I put a exclamation mark right next to it? That means, in discrete math terms, I believe too, the opposite of. So now I'm saying I is less than 10 and check is not true. So and check is not true. So that means it's false. Not true is false because it can only be true or false. So as you can see, when I run this program now, I don't get any output whatsoever. Now, let's try to be a little bit sneaky here. What if every time I run this loop, I set check equal to not check? What would happen then? Well, let's think about it, or pause the video and think about it before I go and explain it. So I'm going to run this loop. I'm going to set I is equal to true. And then, check is equal to true, I is equal to 1. So I is less than or equal to 10. Yes, I is 1. And not check. So check right now is true. So not check is false. So that's going to be, so this statement anded, so this statement together with, since there's an and in it, is going to be false. So what's going to happen there is that this loop will not execute at all. So there you go. It did not execute at all because when it first ran, that condition was not true, and so it broke out of the loop. But what I want to show you guys is that it is possible that I can alternate check every single time. So let's say I do that, I do this little statement, which we'll get to, and I check, and I do an if statement, and I say if check, which is again another way of checking if it's true. If check, I'm going to see out high, or I'm going to see out I, and then say this is the if statement, and I'll put an end up. So if check, this is the if statement. So now we're going to run it and see what happens. And also, I'm going to get rid of this statement here and just make the Boolean statement I is less than or equal to 10. So hopefully what should happen here is, so I'm assigning check to true, I to 1. I go through the loop, I print out I, and I say if check. So if check is true, print out this. So on the first run through, it should check is true. So I'm going to print out I 1, and then this is the if statement. And then I'm going to set check equal to not check. So check right now is true. So not check is false. So false will now get assigned to not check. So basically, every time this loop goes through, this statement is going to alternate getting printed out because I'm switching check every time. This is a way to switch the Boolean value every time. It's not really used that often in programming, but it's just something to visualize that I can do this. So for instance, I'll print out 1, and then it'll get sent, and then check will get sent to false. So this won't print out, but then I'll get to but then when I print out 2, this variable will get flipped again, and it will get set to true. So when I run 3, this will get printed out. So it won't print out on 4, but it'll print out 5. So hopefully this statement gets executed right here every time there's an odd number because I start at 1. And let's try running it. And I pray to God that I'm right. And hey, I look like I'm right. See, I've got 1, I've got 3, I've got 5, I've got 7, I've got 9. And all the while I'm printing out 1 through 10, right? Pretty sweet. So that again is another way to think about programming, and that's how if statements work. Remember, I can have any Boolean statement here. I need my incrementer, and I need my declaration. And on a quick note, I actually want to show you guys that it's possible that I can take my declaration out of here. And I can put it here, and if I put a semicolon here, this is still a valid statement, and I can still run it here. I build it and run it, and I get the same thing. And the reason is because this is just another way to write a for loop. So as you can see, I have to keep my semicolon because the for loop is still divided into 3 phases. So I have my first phase, which is my declaration, and I'm saying I don't need a declaration because I already have my variable up here. And then I have my condition and then my incrementer. So that's pretty cool. You probably won't need to use this in the class or see it, and it's better to keep the variable in this section just because, it's all in one place. So that's the nice thing, is that for loops are very easy to change because all the conditions are right in this one line that you can look at. So that's the power of a for loop, and you can be able to do that. And right now, I'm going to end this video here and see you guys later. I'll see you.